Today I want to show you pigeon pose, an amazing hip opener. You'll see this in a lot of yoga classes. It's great to do towards the end of a yoga class after you've warmed up the body and you kind of want to start to relax a little bit. You want to start to settle down, not so much movement, but now that the body's warmed up, you can open some muscles much deeper, such as the hips. And so for hips, for guys, the hips are generally going to be a little bit tighter. Part of the reason for that is because men's, in general, it depends on your individual anatomy. It's different for every person. But the femur bone is generally deeper into the hip socket. The femur here goes deeper into the hip socket. So when you try to get the flexibility, you'll get compression on the joints and the hip and the bones pressing into each other. So that's part of the reason why it's so hard for men to open their hips and why there is a limit as to their flexibility. So you want to honor that, respect that. When I first started practicing yoga, I tweaked my hips a few times. I tweaked a lot of muscles because I wasn't listening to my body. I was trying to do what everyone else was doing when really, it had taken 20 plus years for those muscles to get so tight. They don't open up in one yoga class. They can take weeks and months. And of course, you want to make sure you're hydrated. You want to be drinking a lot of water, eating healthy food. But let's get into pigeon pose. So it looks like this. So a good way, so you can get into this any way you want. You can start in table like this, and then let the right knee come behind the right wrist like that, and the right foot comes out to the left. Or how it's classically come into is you're in downward facing dog. Inhale, right foot up to the sky, reach it back. Exhale, step it forward, pigeon, just like that. So I'm actually going to teach it here with the other side, so you can see, so you can just see the foot better. Like otherwise, my body's in the way. So do it with the left foot behind the left wrist, and then you'll notice how this left foot comes out to the right like this, and the foot will actually be pointed, just like that. So before you even come down onto the elbows, stay here on your fingertips, and lift through the heart. Shoulders draw back and down away from the ear, so kind of like a cobra. This is sometimes called king pigeon. Right? So then once you're here, you feel into your hip. If you feel like it, maybe you have a block to come onto your elbows, but see if you can come down here. See what that feels like. Maybe this is good for you. Or, I call it alligator arms. You interlace your fingers, elbows splay apart, and your forehead rests on the back of your hands. Just like this. Now once you're in this pose, it's a yin pose, which means you don't have to do a lot of effort. You simply take deep, slow breaths and you relax into the pose. One thing, so there's a few little subtle modifications you can do. One is the hips. So if the hips, what I often see people are, the hips, let's say you come forward with the left foot and the left knee. So then the hips will be out to the left like this, right? Which is good. You'll get a stretch in a certain part of your hip, but then to get into the other parts of your hip, you want the hips to come over to the right, like this. So from here, they're over to the left, and they come over to the right. And you'll notice it's the inhalation that you're going to get the opening. So the inhale, you'll feel the muscle opening, and the exhale, you'll just relax and let your body weight kind of sink into the mat more. So this is a letting go pose. You just clear your mind and you just let go and you relax into the pose. And as you hold it, it'll get a little more intense, so see if you can stay with it. Do this pose, I'd say, at least 10 to 15 breaths. This is meant to be a deep opener. Do it after you've warmed up the hips a bit. And if your chest doesn't come all the way down, don't force it. You can do it on your elbows, or you can do it on your hands, or fingertips, or blocks even like this. Or even one day, maybe you even do the no hands. And there's some even more advanced poses you can get into from this, but we're not going to get into them now. So one other thing about this pose, an important piece, is so this front shin here, the angle in which it comes back, the more it comes back like this, the less intense the stretch will be. The more the shin starts to come parallel with the front of the mat, like that, you'll notice it gets a lot harder. And once it's really open the hips, you can actually get this front shin completely parallel with the mat. And once it's completely parallel with the mat, you no longer need to point the toes. You can then curl the toes towards the knee like that. And I'm nowhere nearly warmed up to do this. Even if I was super warmed up, this is still a super challenging pose for me. So I generally don't do it unless I've done like an hour plus of pretty challenging yoga, focusing on opening up warming up the legs and the hips and the groin and the back, and then I'll do it. So really, you really got to listen to your body, take care of your body. Then, so you'll notice that was the left side. You'll do the right side. You'll notice the right side may be more tight, maybe more open. That's an interesting thing to work with. It's not uncommon for one person to have one side more tighter than the other.